Have you ever observed the way he looks at you when he thinks you're distracted? That subtle shift in his eyes, the gentle change in his voice that appears only when he speaks to you. These small things say more than any confession. The unconscious never lies. His words might still be careful, but something inside him has already made a decision, and that choice is you. What if I told you that the man who sometimes confuses you with his mixed signals may actually be feeling much more than he is able to express? He may already be much more in love than even he realizes. Carl Jung explained that our deepest emotions move beneath the surface of the mind, revealing themselves through behaviors we do not plan or control. When a man's deeper self recognizes something in you, his body reacts before he has time to understand the feeling. Most women mistake silence for lack of interest, when, in truth, silence can sometimes mean his emotions are too strong for him to manage. True love is rarely loud or dramatic. It does not always show up with big romantic displays. Instead, it changes his inner world in quiet, powerful ways that he might not talk about, but you can feel around him. The man who confuses you with sudden closeness, unexpected distance, or thoughtful attention is often the man who is already more attached to you than he can admit. Love doesn't always enter through logic or explanations. Sometimes it arrives like a whisper, through dreams, through the way he looks at you when he forgets to guard himself, through the way his energy becomes different only around you. Jung said that what we do not make conscious appears in our life as destiny. The same is true in love. Even if he has not yet understood what he feels, his soul is already acting in your direction. So how can you recognize that he is truly in love? What signals come from the part of him that he cannot disguise? These signs reveal his feelings without him needing to speak them out loud. This is not about analyzing text messages or chasing common romantic hints. We are going into what Jung described as the symbols of the inner world, the small but meaningful changes in a man when something inside him lights up simply because you are near. Before we go deeper, I want you to listen carefully to each sign. Many times people wait for big promises, dramatic confessions, or long emotional speeches, and because of that, they overlook the real evidence. The evidence is in how someone shifts on the inside when you enter their life. The biggest proof is the way their emotional landscape rearranges itself around you, often without them even noticing. Jung taught that real love is not something the mind selects. It is something the heart recognizes. It arrives unexpectedly, breaks through emotional defenses, and connects us with the most honest parts of ourselves. So open your awareness a little wider. Let your intuition, your sensitivity, and your quiet intelligence guide you as you consider these signs. If this man does even one of these things, if you have seen him respond in any of these ways, it's very likely that he feels much more for you than he is able to put into words. When a man is deeply touched by the presence of a woman who awakens something inside him, his behavior changes in ways he can't always explain, and the first sign appears in the way his attention shifts. This is not the obvious attention that tries to impress or demand anything from you. It is gentle, understated, and real. He suddenly notices small details that others ignore. He senses when something is off, even if you say you're okay. He comments on a small change in your expression or something subtle in your voice. These reactions don't come from strategy or desire to appear thoughtful. They come from an emotional place within him that recognizes you on a deeper level. He does not need to see you every day to keep you in his mind. You may notice that he brings up things you once mentioned in passing or checks in on something he remembered days later. Sometimes he appears at the exact moment you felt forgotten. He doesn't do this out of routine or politeness. Something in his unconscious pulls him toward you. He is trying to understand a feeling that he cannot yet put into a clear sentence, but it is already shaping how he behaves. This is not obsession or emotional dependence. It is resonance, his inner world responding to yours. Another strong sign is the way he changes when you are around him. Some men behave the same with everyone, but a man who is quietly falling in love becomes different with the one who touches him deeply. He might become softer, more open, even a little nervous or clumsy. True love doesn't polish a man into perfection. It uncloses him, makes him more human, more authentic, more natural. If he allows himself to lower his guard only with you, if his silence with you feels meaningful instead of awkward, then you are witnessing something that goes far deeper than casual interest. There is something else too. Jung believed that whatever the soul loves, it also protects. If this man cares for you in a way he cannot explain, he will start worrying about your comfort and safety in small but sincere ways. He might remind you to rest, to eat properly, or to be careful when traveling. He might insist that you text him when you get home, or want to make sure you're not walking alone late at night. These gestures do not come from wanting to control you or prove anything. They come from a natural sense of emotional responsibility, as if your well-being has quietly become connected to his own balance. He may not say, "I love you," but his protective actions speak from a part of him he does not fully understand yet. When a man behaves this way, it is because something inside him has chosen you long before he is ready to put it into clear language. Deep emotion shows itself in the things he cannot hide, the things he does without thinking, the things that escape his control. Sometimes a man's soul loves you long before his mind admits it, long before he gathers the courage to express it, and long before he understands what this connection truly means to him. And if you look closely, you will see the truth of his feelings in the small, involuntary ways he reaches for you again and again. And when that happens, when a man begins to care for you with that quiet devotion that asks for nothing in return, that doesn't look for praise or attention, it means something inside him has already welcomed you into a very private part of his world. Even if he doesn't speak about it openly, even if he doesn't fully understand it, and even if he tries to hide it from himself, his inner being has already connected with yours in a way that goes beyond logic. So if you're recognizing these signs, if these words feel familiar to you, don't take them lightly. Don't be fooled by his lack of clear expression on the outside. What is happening within him is much stronger, much deeper, and far more meaningful than it appears. Stay close, because the next part reveals even deeper signs. Signs that only appear when a true bond exists between two souls. There are moments when a man doesn't have to speak at all, because his energy speaks louder than any sentence. His presence answers questions he never dared to verbalize. Maybe he hasn't said that he loves you. Maybe he hasn't made any big promises or planned a future with you. But there is something unmistakable in the way he watches you. There is something in the way he breathes a little differently when you approach. Something in the way he sits close to you without needing to fill the silence. And that silence is not emptiness, it is connection. It is a form of communication so deep that words would only interrupt it. When a man is more in love with you than he is willing to accept, his entire body reveals it long before he does. Watch how he reacts when someone else talks about you. If you're in a group and someone praises you, notice the light in his eyes, the slight smile he tries to hide. If someone criticizes you, look at how his expression stiffens or how he becomes alert. Love does not need to be conscious in order to defend what it values. His instinct moves even before his thoughts catch up. Jung said that the unconscious follows its own direction, its own rhythm. Many times we act from emotions we haven't learned to name. If he instantly reacts when someone mentions you, whether by defending you, showing curiosity, or simply looking over at you, it is because a part of him has already decided that you are important. Another sign is in his effort. A man who genuinely feels something for you puts effort into things that seem small but are incredibly meaningful. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It can show up in the way he listens carefully, in how he remembers something tiny you once said, in how he adjusts his plans to make space for you, or even in how he apologizes when he feels he wasn't his best self. That quiet effort reveals more than any romantic speech. Because someone who feels nothing does not change anything, but someone who loves even silently, even unconsciously, begins to create space for you without being asked. He does it not to impress you, not to win points, but because his inner world is already changing shape to include you. And here is something most people ignore. When a man is truly touched by your presence, he changes even when you are absent. His daily patterns shift. His routine becomes different. His thoughts grow scattered, softer, or more intense. He might seem distracted without knowing why. He may become more thoughtful, more reflective, or even a little restless. It's as if something inside him has awakened, and although he cannot fully explain what is happening, he keeps finding you in his thoughts, in his emotions, in those quiet moments where he once thought of nothing at all. Jung spoke about the strength of internal symbols, the way certain figures enter our inner world and reshape it even without physical presence. And you, without trying, have become one of those internal figures for him. Even if he does not say it, even if he tries to hide it, even if he denies it when questioned, you already live inside a space in him that he never gave to anyone else. This is why you cannot judge his feelings only by what appears on the surface. Many men remain silent, not because they do not feel deeply, but because translating the language of the soul into clear and simple words can be incredibly difficult for them. That is where your awareness becomes powerful. You can see beyond what he says. You can sense what he does not yet know how to express. You can understand what even he has not fully realized, that his heart already made a choice long before he consciously noticed it. Stay with me because there are still more signs that reveal this quiet but powerful love. And once you understand all of them, the entire picture becomes clear, a picture that may change the way you understand love forever. There is a transformation that takes place inside a man when love begins to grow. It is not dramatic or loud. It is slow, gentle, almost invisible at first, yet it changes him from the inside. This transformation shows itself when he begins to release patterns he once clung to, habits of distance, avoidance, or self-protection. Maybe he once avoided commitment. Maybe he kept emotional walls high. Maybe he lived with a comfortable independence that never required him to open up. But since you entered his life, something inside him has shifted. Thinking only about himself is no longer satisfying. His inner world opens little by little, making room for someone else. And he does this not as a sacrifice, but because a deeper part of him senses a new reality drawing him forward. Pay attention if he starts sharing pieces of his life he never revealed to others. Not small stories, but real fragments of who he is, his fears, his mistakes, the things that wounded him, the dreams he hides, the memories he rarely speaks about. When a man reaches this level of openness with you, he is showing himself without any mask. Not to impress you, not to appear strong, but because he finally feels safe enough to be vulnerable. At that point, it is no longer about winning you or maintaining an image. It is about surrender. And that surrender, even if it seems subtle, is one of the strongest signs that something inside him has already changed forever. Jung claimed that the soul needs a mirror in order to truly know itself. And through your presence, you become that mirror for him. Through you, he begins to see himself differently. He notices the parts of him he once ignored, the tenderness he did not know he carried, the gentleness he did not realize he could express. And this shift is not something he plans. It simply happens naturally. effortlessly, as if your presence awakens a version of him that had been quietly sleeping inside. There is another small detail people rarely notice: how he responds to your emotions. Not everyone knows how to hold the emotional depth of another person. Some retreat, some grow cold, some lose patience. But when a man is truly connected to you, he begins to emotionally harmonize with you almost unconsciously. If you are joyful, he feels lighter. If your mood changes, he becomes alert without knowing why. If sadness touches your voice, he becomes unsettled. Even if he does not show it directly, he may not always ask if you are okay, but you will see it in the way he watches you more closely, in the way his tone softens, in how he moves a little nearer, even if he is unsure how to help. That instinctive desire to support your emotions, even without the right words, is one of the purest forms of unspoken love and one of the strongest signs it reveals itself when you are not there. Pay attention to how he behaves in your absence. If he brings your name into conversations without intending to, if he saves stories or moments to share with you later, if he goes through something important and you are the first person who comes to mind, then something deep is unfolding. When there is no physical presence to trigger him, and yet you remain in his thoughts, in his reactions, in his private reflections, it is because you are already rooted inside him. What remains present in silence speaks louder than anything spoken out loud. This is not coincidence. This is the soul revealing its truth. This whole process is not about guessing feelings. It is about learning to listen with the heart. Because real love rarely begins with clear words. Real love starts with signs, with subtle changes the soul creates when it begins to recognize another soul. And as you continue to notice these signs, the next stage becomes even more revealing. There comes a moment when a man, often without realizing it, begins to need your presence. Not as routine, not as distraction, but as emotional grounding. He may not say this openly, but his energy shifts every time you are far away. You can feel it in the way he grows quieter or slightly restless when he has not heard from you. You can sense it in how he reappears just in time, as if something inside him will not let him drift too far. He finds reasons to reconnect, even the smallest excuse, because being close to you brings him a sense of balance he does not fully understand. This is not obsession. It is not dependence. It is genuine connection, a connection so deep it moves beyond logic. Jung explained that the unconscious is not bound by reason or time. When a real emotion forms there, it begins to influence decisions, reactions, and impulses. And one of the clearest ways this appears is in how he starts valuing your opinion, even in areas that do not directly involve you. Maybe he shares future plans and asks what you think. Maybe he adjusts something in his life because your reaction matters to him. He is not trying to impress you. He truly wants to know if his path aligns with yours. Without saying it, he is slowly letting you in. Another sign appears when he begins sharing his doubts, fears, and uncertainties with you. This is not because he sees you as someone who must fix him, but because his soul feels safe with you. With you, he does not need to pretend. He does not need to hide behind strength or detachment. He can simply be himself, unguarded and honest. And when a man opens that deeply, when he lets you into places he never shows anyone, it means he has crossed the threshold from affection into real, meaningful attachment. What truly confirms everything is how he begins imagining the future with you. You will notice it in small comments, casual phrases about places he wants to go, or things he would like to try someday. He does not say it directly, but you are already included in those visions. You can hear it between the lines. His future thoughts quietly include you, not as a temporary presence, but as part of his long-term scenery. These small imaginings are windows into his unconscious mind. Inside there, you are already part of the story he is building. You do not need to pressure him or demand answers, because the soul, when it truly loves, reveals itself through simple gestures. If his actions, his attention, and the shift in his energy all lean toward you naturally and consistently, then what exists between you is real, more real than he may yet understand. He does not need to declare it loudly. His unconscious is already speaking, and when the soul has chosen someone, the rest becomes only a matter of time. In that time, if you pay attention, you can see with the eyes of the heart what the logical mind has not yet dared to say. Because when a man begins to look at you as someone he does not want to lose, something profound starts moving inside him. His interactions with you change in a way that is not superficial or temporary. It is not only about contacting you more or becoming more affectionate. It is deeper. It is the way his inner world subtly reorganizes itself around your presence, creating a space where he instinctively wants you to remain. When a feeling is real, the other person stops being an addition to life and becomes a necessary part of the whole. You notice it in the way he slowly begins to give you priority without announcing it. Maybe he is having a difficult day. Maybe many things pull him in different directions, yet somehow he still finds a way to be present. Not because he feels forced, not because he believes it is his duty, but because he genuinely does not want the connection to fade. Being close to you, even in silence, gives him a sense of peace. And peace is one of the most underestimated emotions in love, yet it is also one of the strongest and most meaningful. Love is not only about excitement or sparks. True love, the kind that forms quietly in the unconscious, the kind Jung explored as deep and transformative energy, also shows itself through the calm that appears when someone feels safe enough to simply be themselves without performance. When he finds peace with you, when he realizes he can lower his guard, make mistakes, be imperfect, and still feel accepted, something important begins to shift inside him. He starts to sense that you are like a home, not physically, but emotionally, a place where he can rest. And when this feeling grows, another subtle change appears. He begins to align with you naturally, without expecting anything in return, and without needing to be asked. Maybe he starts enjoying the things you enjoy. Maybe he becomes curious about your dreams, your thoughts, the small things that light you up. He does not lose his individuality. Instead, he discovers the beauty of sharing what was once only his world. According to Jung, when two souls begin to resonate, inner walls soften, and it is in that softening that true intimacy is created. Not just attraction or desire, but that quiet sense of belonging that does not need words to be real. Also notice how he speaks of you when you are not around. You may never hear those conversations. You may never know the details. But in simple moments, in daily discussions when your name comes up, he chooses to stand on your side. He defends you not to impress anyone, not to gain praise, not because he expects something in return, but because deep inside he feels that protecting you is the same as protecting something he has begun to cherish. Real love does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it reveals itself through small actions, silent choices, gestures no one else witnesses. And that kind of love, the one that protects quietly, is often the strongest of all. So if he does these things, if he adjusts his habits without realizing it, if he cares for you in moments you never see, if he thinks of you before making decisions that shape his life, do not overlook it. You are standing before an emotional truth that even he may not fully understand yet. And this is exactly where the purest part of love begins, in the parts of us untouched by fear or doubt, in the place not shaped by past pain or the complicated logic of the mind. Stay here, because you are reaching the deepest signs of a love that can no longer hide. When all these signs come together, when you look back and see that this man has changed little by little without realizing it, that his actions, his quiet moments, and his everyday behavior speak louder than the words he is not yet ready to say, this is when the truth becomes clear. True love does not always arrive loudly. It does not always appear with perfect confessions or dramatic moments. Many times it arrives as a steady presence, quiet protection, gentle attention, and a tenderness that never demands to be noticed. And when a man is more in love with you than he can yet understand, his heart has already made a decision that his mind is only beginning to recognize. Jung taught that the unconscious never lies. In the deepest layer of a person lives a truth that reveals itself through symbols, through emotions, through actions. We do not always understand these signals, but still express them because they are honest. And if you are noticing these signs, if you feel this connection, if something inside you insists that what is unfolding between you is not accidental, then listen closely to that inner voice. Trust your intuition. So often, what we call confusion is simply the mind trying to explain what the soul has already recognized. At the end of everything, what we truly seek is not a flawless love story, but the deep resonance of two hearts that choose one another without force. The signs are never written in dramatic speeches, but in the everyday blending of priorities, in the way he moves toward you even when nothing logical urges him to. Jung understood that the most meaningful connections exist beyond rational thought. They rise from the hidden parts of us where we are most authentic and least afraid. When a man begins rearranging his inner world to make space for you, when his energy changes whether you are close or far away, when he allows vulnerability without attempting to conceal it. That is the love that appears before words exist, the bond that communicates through presence alone. Trust what your intuition has been softly telling you. It senses what logic often fails to grasp. In this slow dance between what is felt and what is spoken, between the conscious mind and the deeper self, the most powerful truth reveals itself. Sometimes the heart arrives at its truth long before the mind realizes a journey has even started. And if you have noticed these quiet signs in his behavior, if you have felt these changes without needing reassurance, then you can be sure of one thing. His soul has already accepted what his voice has not yet spoken. He is far more in love with you than he realizes. We will see each other in the next moment of understanding, when time catches up with feeling and awareness finally meets emotion. Love like this does not rush or demand answers. It unfolds naturally, revealing itself through consistency, care, and quiet devotion. It grows in the spaces between words, in pauses, in shared silence, in the comfort of simply being. When two people are aligned at this deeper level, there is no need to convince or chase. The connection sustains itself because it is rooted in truth, patience, and an unspoken knowing that does not need explanation. This is how real love makes itself known, softly but unmistakably. It stays, it listens, and it chooses again without fear, even when certainty has not yet arrived yet.